Thank you. All right, well, it is good to be back with you guys in 2018. How many of you guys were here last year and saw the presentation that I did? Okay, so let me ask that a different way. How many were not here? Okay, good. And I don't know if we talked about that this week, but what percent of a talk do you typically, on average, remember? Does anyone know?
14. They say 20%.
Okay, but you're much higher?
I'd like to hope.
Okay. I've heard 10%, okay? So repetition is a good thing, and so I'm going to repeat some things. Tonight we're going to be talking about worldview. Does anyone know what the definition of worldview is? Take a guess.
Your world on the, your view on the world.
That's a good question. It's a good answer. Your worldview, who of us wear glasses? Okay? So I think this is a good, I can't see any of you right now. I can't even see the big E on the eye exam if I were to take it right now. But these glasses really represent your worldview, right? How you see the world, right? And many people in our culture, we see the world very differently, right? Today we see even things like gender very differently. We see, even in the church, we see the Bible very differently. And so my challenge to you and to myself tonight is to ask you, how do you see every single thing in your life? Do you see it through the lens of the Bible, or do you see it through the lens of your own heart, your own feelings, your own mind? Okay? And we're going to be touching on a lot of subjects today that are in our culture, and to challenge you how to think about these things from a biblical worldview. And I think this verse is a good place to start. How many of you have heard of this verse before from 1 Timothy? Very popular verse. But I want to really point out something in this verse. It says, "Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for believers in speech, conduct, love, and faith, and in purity." So really, it's you that set the example for me. Did you know that? Okay? It's you that set the example for the adults. Now, of course, the adults have to set a good example as well, of course. But here, Paul is telling us that you have this unbelievable responsibility in speech. So how do you set the example in your speech, right? How do you set the example in your conduct, in your love, and in your faith, and in your purity? So I really want you to think about that tonight. And as I'm talking tonight too, these on this side of the row here are these 2-minute activist sheets, okay? And even if you are 10 years old, you can still be an activist for things like family, for things like faith, for things like life, for things like marriage even, for things like, what is it? All the different things that we stand for even at Massachusetts, and religious liberty, okay? So would you consider tonight just signing up if you don't already get information from us, especially if you're from Massachusetts, consider doing that. All right. So I am from Massachusetts Family Institute, and we are the local associate of Focus on the Family. How many of you guys have heard of Focus on the Family? Dr. James Dobson, right? So there's 50 states in the United States. 40 of those states have a MFI, Family Institute, and we really try to look out for life, any issue regarding the sanctity of life, religious liberty, marriage, and now in Massachusetts, we're dealing with this thing called marijuana. How many of us have heard of marijuana? Okay? And can we look at marijuana even through a biblical worldview? Should we look at marijuana through a biblical worldview? I think so, right? All of this is in play. I think I was talking to Mr. Callis, who said you guys are dealing with the marijuana issue right on the ballot or legislatively right now. So as we've had a lot of lessons learned from Colorado in Massachusetts, and I'll be getting into this, even if you're from Michigan, you have a responsibility to set an example in how you view even things like marijuana. All right. I'm going to see if my clicker works. Okay. So here is my family, and this is why I do what I do. Many of you, do you guys remember Judah from last year? Okay. He couldn't make it this year. He's home with his little chickens. We just got 22 chickens at the house today. We just recently moved, and my wife has always wanted to have a small farm. So her dream is coming true with the chickens. So this is Judah, Daisy, and then this week I brought with me my 2 oldest boys, Levi and Jesse, my wife Ashley, and then since that picture we've added one more, Ezra. So now we have 4 boys and a girl. And I think all of us would agree that healthy families make healthy societies, right? And what is the other side, if you want to call it the other side, is really attacking the most is the family structure, right? How we define marriage, right? How we define life, how we define brother, sister, mother, father. All of these things in our society are very much under attack. And you have a responsibility to speak out. The worst thing we can do is remain silent. I think it was President Reagan that said it only takes one generation to lose your freedoms, right? And in the church especially, we have a responsibility to define these issues. So this is our mission, dedicated to strengthening the family and the Judeo-Christian values upon which the family is based. And as I mentioned, there's 40 MFIs, if you will, family policy alliances across the nation. We partner with these different organizations. How many of you have heard of Alliance Defending Freedom? I talked a little bit about this last year. How many of us have heard of Jack Phillips, the baker from Colorado? Anybody with a raise of hands? Jack Phillips, okay. ADF, Alliance Defending Freedom, represented Jack Phillips at the Supreme Court. Did you guys hear how that came out in the Supreme Court? The baker from Colorado, he was being forced to bake a cake for a homosexual wedding, okay? And according to his religious liberty, he said, I can't do that, right? And he lost 40% of his business because of it. But I think it was in June, the Supreme Court came out in favor of Jack Phillips, which was a huge victory, and just shows the importance, too, of having justices on our Supreme Court that believe in our same values, okay? So Alliance Defending Freedom, a wonderful organization. Also, Family Research Council, have you guys heard of Tony Perkins at all? Okay. I would encourage you guys to come down to D.C. sometime with me. There's wonderful events like Watchmen on the Wall that you could come down to, and others, to really expose yourself to what's going on in our nation regarding life, liberty, and marriage. All right, so again, life, marriage, and liberty are the main issues, and now we're going to start on drugs, okay? So we're going to talk about sex, drugs, and not rock and roll, okay? So we'll start with drugs. And in Massachusetts, 2016, we legalized the commercialization of marijuana. Okay, now some of this is going to be a review a little bit from last year, but like I said, repetition can be a good thing. All right, so would any of you think that this would be concerning to legalize marijuana? Anybody think that might be a little concerning? Okay, what do you think the other side's argument is to legalize pot? Why would they think that's a good thing? Anyone take a guess? Or some arguments from the other side? Yes. Say it again. Medical purposes. Very, very good answer. Yes. It's less addictive than tobacco and alcohol? Less dangerous. Okay. Definitely an argument they make. Yep.
Some might want to argue that the federal government doesn't have the right to ban it.
Okay, so state versus federal law, right? Because do you guys, is it illegal federally or not illegal, or not illegal federally? Does anyone know? It's illegal federally, right? So Massachusetts has legalized something that is illegal on a federal basis, okay? Yep.
Boost the financing from criminal gangs.
Boost of what?
Boost financing from criminal gangs.
Yep. Okay.
That's what we're doing in the UK. Is we're just about to start legalising it for medical purposes. But
Yeah.
the truth underneath it is most of the criminal gangs in England that have been booming for the last 10 years, their primary source of income is
Yeah.
illegal marijuana.
Okay. So our
Legalising it is bankrupt.
Okay, so our legislators are saying, you're making too much money as criminals, we want some of it.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That is an argument, okay? Yeah, no, I know. You guys are only a few. I mean, unfortunately, in many ways, Europe is only, less than a generation away from where we could be in the U.S., and so that's something we want to be very concerned about. So all the reasons you all mentioned are reasons that the other side gives. Now, this is the picture of commercialization, and I would guess that when you think about the commercialization of marijuana, you don't always think about this, right? But did you know that in Colorado, over 50% of the sale of marijuana is what? Edibles, okay? Who eats edibles mostly? Teenagers and kids. When did people get addicted to cigarettes? Does anyone take a guess? When they were teenagers. Do you think the same thing might happen with marijuana? Yeah, the statistics very much show that between 16 and 17 is when we have the highest use of marijuana, okay? And you can see that the industry is really not trying to hide or they're not really trying to make this very different from a Reese's peanut butter cup. It very much looks the same. And I think I showed this slide last year too, but it's worth repeating that in Colorado right now, there are more pot shops than Starbucks and McDonald's combined, okay? How many of us have been to McDonald's? Okay, how many of us have been to Starbucks? Okay, could you imagine in your state there being more pot shops than Starbucks and McDonald's combined, right? Would this be a good reason not to allow it in Michigan as it's coming up on the ballot, right? Now, as a word of encouragement, I'm going to give you some updates as I talk tonight on what's going on in Massachusetts specifically. There is a wonderful grassroots organization that MFI is a part of in Massachusetts. Anyone want to take a guess at how many cities and towns there are in Massachusetts? Beside my son, or my sons. Well, yes. 37. Yes. This is like a good civics class, right? Yes. 20. Well, we want to go up. So, all right. 60. Guys, it's 351. Okay? All right? There's 351 towns and cities. Did you know that there's a town called Florida in Massachusetts? Right? Okay? I never knew that. But anyway, there's 351 towns, cities in Massachusetts. And I'm here to tell you tonight that because of what MFI has been doing with a wonderful grassroots organization that was actually started by 4 moms in the town of Westboro, which is, I'm trying to think, that's a lot farther east from here. About 250 towns and cities have now opted out or passed a moratorium to not allow the commercialization of marijuana in their town or city. Isn't that great news? Okay? 250 out of 351 in Massachusetts, no less, okay? Now, unfortunately, the town and city that we're in right now, Pittsfield wants to become the marijuana capital of Massachusetts. And they've even recently okayed a pot shop a half a mile from this facility, which they know is a children's, that many thousands of children come here yearly. And we've been working with John Mead on this particular issue in Pittsfield. But again, getting back to 1 Timothy, you as a young person can set the example on this particular issue. You don't have to be my age to go to the town hall to talk to your selectman, to pick up your phone, okay, to talk to your city councilor, to find out information, to start being an activist in your own town or city. And then some of the myths, what was mentioned tonight about being less addictive or less dangerous than alcohol, well, a lot of these are myths that are promoted by our culture, okay? And you can see this is the New England Journal of Medicine saying that, for example, there's an overall level of confidence, a high level of confidence that marijuana causes a diminished lifetime achievement. Would this be good for your school system? Now look, most of us, I imagine many of us are homeschooled, all right? But I would imagine some of us live in good school towns, okay? And your property values are connected to your good school town, okay? So would it be a good idea to introduce a drug like this that would diminish the lifetime achievement or diminish the work ethic of kids going to school in your town? Probably not a good idea. And then some other issues as well. This is what I was talking about earlier. You can see the ages of where people become addicted. And 16 to 17 is where we see teens are more likely to start using illicit drugs than any other age group. And you can see as you turn 26 that really starts to drop off, okay? Tell me if you know what age, on average, your brain fully develops. Does anyone know? Yes. Very good. 24, 25, okay? And did you know that in the front of your brain is where you have, begins with an L. It's where you have, or an R. It's where you have your, someone tell me? It's kind of a tough question. L-O-G-I-C. Very good. Logic. Okay. So this is where your logic is. All right? And in the back of your brain is where your, what do you think? Opposite of logic or opposite of reason would be, starts with an E. Emotions. Okay? Or feelings. Okay? So what do you think in our brains, what do you think develops first? The back or the front? The back, right? And look, as adolescent, I mean, I don't even like to use the word adolescent, right? Because it's a term we've made up in the past 100 years, okay? But as you become, perhaps, let's just say perhaps, many of our young people in our society don't make great decisions sometimes. They can be easily influenced. Okay, maybe not you guys, okay, but part of the reason that we don't always make the best decisions is because your emotions are developing much more quickly than your logic and reason. Now, is that giving you an excuse to make bad decisions? No, okay, but just so you know, that this industry is preying upon that way that we develop, okay? If you have any questions as I'm going through this, feel free to jump in here. So this is what I mentioned about schools. The number one issue in Colorado is pot in their school system. Okay. Many people will say if you legalize a drug that you will have less use of that drug. Have you guys ever heard that argument? Okay. Let's just legalize it and less people use it. You know, this whole war on drugs. Let's just, legalize everything. Well, the black is tobacco and alcohol. The gray is marijuana, cocaine, heroin, okay? So which is used more? Tobacco and alcohol, right? Which one is legal? Tobacco and alcohol, okay? So as you legalize a drug, you actually increase the use of the drug. And doesn't that really make sense? The more accessible a drug is, the more it's going to be used. And I won't get too far into this, but again, if you think that marijuana, and I'm sure all of you don't think marijuana is a great idea, but the district attorney's office in Denver thinks it's a really bad idea, and they've seen crime go up, motor vehicle accidents go up, all kinds of things that people say, hey, let's bring in the income, but then the cost to society is through the roof. And then here's some new data highlights. Colorado is number one in the nation for first-time marijuana use among youth, representing a 65% increase in the years since legalization. The crime rate in Colorado has increased 11 times faster than the rest of the nation. Gallons of alcohol consumed in Colorado since marijuana legalization have increased by 8%, so they feed into each other. And then Colorado toxicology reports show the percentage of adolescent suicide victims testing positive for marijuana has increased, okay? So not a good idea. And if we are, what did Jesus say are the two most important commands that really summarize the 10 commandments? Does anyone know? Yes.
Look God before any other God.
Yep.
Love your neighbor.
And love your neighbor as yourself. Right. So he's when we look at the 10 commandments, we see the first 5 really talk about how we love the Lord, right? And then the next 5, how we love our neighbor, right? Don't steal, don't commit murder, right? Those kinds of things. Don't covet. Well, do we love our neighbor by protecting them from this drug? Is that a way we can love our neighbor? right? Absolutely. And I think I might have showed you this picture, but just an example, the city of Lawrence was the first city in Massachusetts to ban recreational marijuana, which was great. I took this picture at about 11 o'clock at night in the city hall. And this was the church. The church had come out on Tuesday night, July 17th, and convinced their city council to opt out completely of the commercialization of marijuana. So again, do you think that the church has a responsibility to be involved in something like this issue? Do you think we should be, or should we be silent? Do you think that the church in many ways is silent on this issue? When's the last time we heard a sermon? I'm not trying to bash the local church here. I'm just trying to say, when's the last time we heard a sermon about encouraging us to get involved on this particular issue in our town or city? Okay? If you belong to a youth group, okay, you even can bring this up, okay, and start to raise awareness as well and bring change. Okay? And here's just some more pictures of that night at the city hall. So last year I also talked about, this is an issue now dealing with the sanctity of life. And many times we think about the sanctity of life as at conception, right? And we think about abortion. Many times we don't think about physician-assisted suicide. Did you know that in Massachusetts there was a bill to legalize suicide, that you could actually take the same pills they give you on death row, okay, to take your life if you have a 6-month or less diagnosis to live, okay? Now, do doctors always make good deities, or do they ever make good deities? Does the doctor ever is he sure when he gives a 6-month diagnosis that you're going to die within 6 months? Okay? My dad is a great example. He had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma back in 2005. That's when my firstborn son Jesse was born, okay, in 2005. And we named Jesse because the name means God exists, okay? And we were having faith for my father to be healed because he had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. He was on his deathbed, and if this law were legal, he would have had the legal right to take his life by having the same pills that they give you on death row. Okay? Now, the other side likes to call this death with what? Dignity. All right? Is this really death with dignity? Right? Well, my father came through, and he's still alive to this day, and every year that Jesse's alive, I know that my father has been healed of cancer, right? So again, as Christians, we should be on the forefront and concerned about this particular issue. And I will tell you that in Massachusetts, we had a wonderful victory on this year. We had a group of doctors get on board with this issue, go down to the State House, and wouldn't you know that it only took 20 doctors to come down to the State House to convince the legislature not to vote on this bill. Now, who would have thought 20 doctors could have that much power, right? We had 1,000, we have a lot of Chinese friends at MFI. 1,000 of our Chinese friends went down to the city, down to the State House on a discrimination bill. They were told that they were the largest group to come to the State House in 70 years. Okay? Now, are there churches in Massachusetts that have over 1,000 members? Yeah. I visited one the other day. It's a Hispanic church in Springfield. It's got 1,500. And there's another church less than an hour from here in Agawam called Bethany. Some of you probably have heard of the church. Has about 1,500 members. Okay? I was at another church in Linfield that has almost 3,000 members. Okay? Just one of those churches, if every single member got active, would be the largest group to ever show up at the State House. And it only took 20 doctors to change the minds of the legislature. Okay? So you have power. Okay? Even if you live in a different state. Okay? A lot of these things ring true as you go from state to state. I won't get into too many details of the assisted suicide other than I'll tell you this. In the Netherlands, back in 2012, around there, they were considering that if you were over the age of 70 and you were tired of living, okay, you could take your life legally, okay? How many of us have ever had a bad day? Okay? Well, hopefully you're not having a bad day when you're over the age of 70 and you live under this kind of law. The counseling ban. How many of us, I might have mentioned this last year, how many of us have heard of the counseling ban? Okay, so this would basically, how many of us know a therapist? Okay, so the people in our society want to control the professional speech of therapists when it comes to gender identity. And they also want to control the choices of minors. Does anyone know how old a minor is, from what age down?
18 and under. Well,
17 and under, right. Okay, so this bill would have said to a minor, 17 or younger, that if you identify as transgender, okay, that is how you were born, and you don't have a say on changing, okay? You are stuck with it because that's how you were born. It's just like being born male, okay? You were born that way. Also, it would control the professional speech of therapists so that if you were trying to enter conversion therapy and even speech therapy, okay, even from a biblical worldview, the original bill would have said that you could go to jail and be prosecuted as a child abuser. The bill also said that your daughter could basically be taken by the Department of Children and Families, DCF. Your daughter could be taken by DCF and put into another family as their son. Okay? This is kind of how crazy it's gotten. Now, thanks to the good work of MFI, we got that last part I was talking about, the child abuse part, taken out of the bill, okay, before it went to a vote. It passed the House of Representatives 137 to 14, okay, which in the current state of the bill, that if you were a therapist, you could still lose your license for entering into this kind of speech therapy, okay? Do you think this might intimidate therapists a little bit, okay? And do you think it might even, that maybe they want to give a different alternative, but they're too afraid of losing their license and they don't want to get involved? Or maybe they won't take that client because they don't want to deal with that, okay? Well, this passed the House, and we were told it was going to go to the Senate and pass, and we were told that our Republican governor was going to pass it as well. Well, wouldn't you know, we got to the end of the legislative session, July 31st, and it never got to the floor of the Senate, which was fantastic. So now they got to start all over, okay? And we don't have to deal with this bill in Massachusetts, okay? But wouldn't you know that Rhode Island and New Hampshire have already passed this bill. And Rhode Island does not have a family institute like Massachusetts does. And so you can see the importance of having an advocate in your state. I showed this picture, I think, last year, okay? This is the guy, this is Sam Brinton. You can look him up on Google or YouTube, okay? But I call him a guy, right? Because he's a guy. But you know what? He was the son of a Baptist preacher, okay? Something went terribly wrong, right? And now he's the #1 advocate for the counseling ban. And he's convinced almost 10 states to pass this law, okay? So the question I have is, should this guy have more influence than you? Should this guy have more influence than you? I hope the answer is no. Okay? Yes? Brinton. B-R-I-N-T-O-N. Brinton. You can see his interesting choice of shoes. So, many of you, again, are homeschooled, so you don't have to worry about this. But, again, we are to love our neighbor, right? And it still means that we are to be involved in, all these different things that we're talking about. Now, here is the sex ed curriculum for the 8th grade. How many of us are in middle school? I guess I'm talking to homeschoolers, so you don't really know what grade you're in, but that's all right. You're in 7th grade. Okay, great. I'm not going to show you what is in this book because it would make me blush, okay? But we are brainwashing our kids with a curriculum that is written by, does anyone know who writes this? Begins with a P and another P. It's alliteration. That's my son. Yes, Planned Parenthood. Is that what you're going to say? Good. All right. So Planned Parenthood. Should Planned Parenthood be writing the curriculum for sex education in public schools? Probably not. Should you be concerned about that even if you're homeschooled? When you get to be an adult and you can run for school committee, okay, do you think that'd be an important thing to do? Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay? The sex ed mandate was another bill that was going to be passed this year in Massachusetts, and that would have taken away the power of the local school committee board and put it in the power of the state. Okay? Thankfully, again, this bill did not pass as well. So a lot of great news to share with you from last year regarding a lot of the things we were concerned about only a year ago. I think I showed this last year, okay? This is taught in our middle school. This is called the genderbread person, trying to normalize, this kind of thinking. Again, where are we teaching our kids that your identity, your gender identity comes from? Your brain. Does your gender come from your brain? Should be a more hearty no, right? No, it doesn't. It comes from your anatomy, right? All right. So, but they want to separate your gender from your anatomy. Now, is that even biological? No. Is it logical? No. Okay. Where do you think this is taught? Where's this curriculum taught, do you think?
Elementary.
Preschool. Okay. Why are we talking about gender identity in preschool? Does anyone know a 4-year-old that is talking a lot about gender identity? Okay. This is the curriculum in the high school. This was taken by a parent in Beverly, Massachusetts. Okay. And just look at the top here, and this is a good reminder. Our sexuality and gender identity are not what? Can you see that? Set in stone. Is that true? They're not set in stone? Right? In fact, people's identities can be fluid. The spectrum can help you visualize how you feel at any given time. Mark how you identify today on each line, but don't feel limited. It's okay to mark something different tomorrow. Okay? Do you see how we're normalizing this kind of behavior? I mean, who would have thought that it would be like weird to say you're a boy and you're a girl and to just think about gender traditionally, that would be somehow politically incorrect, right? Because in a great way, okay, we as Christians have not been as vocal as we can be. And it's like Martin Luther King said, that the church has the job to define what is good and what is evil. Otherwise, our churches just become social clubs, okay? And we have a responsibility to define what is good and evil, okay? And you can see this particular student is all over the map on these 5 different spectrums. Look at that first spectrum. Biological sex, what the doctor assigned you at birth. How many of us were assigned our sex at birth? Really? You were assigned your sex at birth? Well, maybe I should ask the question differently. Did your body assign the sex at birth when you were born? Right? I mean, you either came out male or female, right? But this is asking the student, what did the doctor assign you at birth? Okay? The second line is how you feel on the inside. The next one is how you present yourself to others, how the world sees you, and who you like. Okay? Can you see the manipulation in the agenda on getting kids to think 5 different ways about their gender, and it really comes down to their feelings, right? Instead of their logic. Really preying on how they think about certain things, how they feel about certain things. And then they're not trying to hide this. This is in the hallway of the school. This is a war on pronouns. So you can see in the middle there we have she, her, hers, and herself. You've heard of those pronouns, right? But now we have new pronouns. So column 1, A, I don't even know what that means. And then E and EY, and then per. Now look, is she a single pronoun? The answer is yes. Okay. She is a single pronoun. Now, why is they in the same category as a single pronoun? Is they a single pronoun? No, they refers to plural, right? So is this kind of schizophrenic? Is this like, can you be two people at the same time? Can you be a male and a female at the same time? Well, according to our new pronouns, you can. Okay? This was in our own hometown of Westford, a preschool curriculum that's, again, pushing this agenda with the pronouns. Me, he, she, they. Did you know that 80% of our public schools have a gay-straight alliance club? 80%? Okay. 80%, let me just repeat that. 80% of our public schools have a gay-straight alliance club. Should more of our schools have Bible clubs, perhaps? Okay. There are 2 great days at the beginning of each year, and even if you homeschool, you could probably participate in these days, which is See You at the Pole. Has anyone heard of See You at the Pole Day? Okay. See You at the Pole is meant to propel you into a Bible study. Also, Focus on the Family has Bring Your Bible to School Day. Have you guys heard of Bring Your Bible to School Day? Okay. So that's another wonderful thing that you know. If you live in Massachusetts and you want to start a Bible study at your school, I would love to come to your school with you and help you start a Bible study. Okay? So think about that. And then these are just some of the signs put up. But again, you can see all the thought that goes into the different ways that kids are identifying today. And making it more and more normal. And this is really the line we see is love me for who I am. And this is kind of how they co-opted our culture, that if you don't approve of the lifestyle, you are then a bigot. You can no longer just tolerate, you have to affirm and approve. This is a film, very dark film, that basically paints the picture of, you saw this? Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I mean, I was going to show a clip of it just to kind of expose a little bit of it, but it's so incredibly dark that everybody in this movie is homosexual, okay? And so the heterosexual is the odd person out, right? So it's normal society for everyone to be homosexual. And at the end of the movie, this young girl is it's really painting heterosexuals as bigots and bullies. And again, this is how they're co-opting the culture, okay? And so if this is playing in your school like it has in Massachusetts, you want to get active and not have that played in your school. Lastly, this is the major thing going on in Massachusetts right now, where men can legally go in women's bathrooms. Have you heard of this? Okay. All right. Not only the bathroom, but they can go in a woman's shower. Okay. So if you go to a local gym, okay, if a guy comes in and showers with you but identifies as a female, he's perfectly legally fine doing that. And is that something that would invade the privacy, do you think, of our women? Yeah? Yeah. Okay. So do you think we should do away with this particular law? I think so. That's probably a good idea, right? So if you live in Massachusetts, you can vote no on 3, okay? You can vote no on 3 to repeal this law in Massachusetts. And can you imagine that if Massachusetts was the one to repeal this law, as liberal as we are known in the nation, okay, if we elect Scott Lively as governor and repeal this law at the same time on November 6th, that would be a major message to our nation. And even as young people, you can volunteer and help people understand why this why this current law is a bad idea, okay? Because it's not just showers and bathrooms, it's also women's shelters, okay? Who do women escape to go to a women's shelter? Abusive men, right? Okay? And so we should be protecting women to let them use their shelters just as women. A picture tells 1,000 words, right? Because I'm running out of time. So this is how your Massachusetts law defines gender, okay? So think about this as how if you live in Massachusetts, this is how your government defines gender. Person's gender-related identity, appearance, or behavior, whether or not that gender-related identity, appearance, or behavior is different from that traditionally associated with the person's physiology or assigned sex at birth. Okay? All right, that's not even the bad part. Okay? May be shown by medical history, care, or treatment, consistent, uniform assertion, or any other evidence that the gender-related identity is sincerely held, okay, as a part of a person's core identity. This is a belief system. Okay? And as a resident of Massachusetts, or this could be coming to your state very soon, is this how you want your state to define something so important like gender? And then these are the public accommodations that have been co-opted by this particular law, except churches. I don't have enough time to get into that, but churches are no longer public accommodations. Here's our State House. Again, this was 300 people that came down to the Massachusetts State House. We were told we were the second largest group to come down to the State House in the 2-year legislative session. 300 people, okay? Many of us probably go to churches that have more than 300 people in them, okay? So your church would be the second largest group to come down to the State House in the 2-year legislative session. Here we are praying outside the House of Representatives. I want to give a shout out to Mr. Shurtleff for going down and really standing in the gap for religious liberty. Absolutely. So this is an actual picture taken down at City Hall. Do you guys know what that flag is on the right? That's the transgender flag. Mr. Shurtleff wants to fly the Christian flag, right? So why is the transgender flag flying at our City Hall and we won't let the Christian flag fly at our City Hall, okay? This is a wonderful thing that Mr. Shurtleff has done to really stand in the gap and raise awareness to this. And I'll get into some more information tomorrow and show you. I was going to show some videos tonight, but I'll show those tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. How about you can be inspired more and more to get involved in our culture, guys. But lastly, I'll just show you where you can go to find more information. And that is our website. So again, guys, more to come tomorrow, but I hope you found that inspiring, maybe eye-opening to some extent, okay? And we'll talk more about tomorrow how you can also become an advocate for life, liberty, marriage, and to do away with pot as well, okay?